Yeah, coaches, we've talked about 4 of the 5 resources: the information, the space, the time, the equipment. We now come to the 5th and final one, and probably the most important one: people. This is a people game, and you've got to know your people and you've got to use your people. A great resource, and you want to make the most of it. There's a Latin phrase called docentio decimus. It means we learn by teaching. We need to use our players to teach so that they can learn. Now you say, I'm the coach, I do the teaching, my players do the playing, and that's very true. But players can learn to become basically their own coach in a way. You as a coach need to work toward eliminating the need for yourself, or lessening the need for yourself if you want to look at it that way. Use your players in practices. You can't hit ground balls to everybody at one time. So let your players pair up and throw ground balls. Maybe even let them hit the fungos, the ground balls to each other if they're able to do that. It's a great way to learn to hit, bat control, eye-hand coordination, and everybody's getting something done now. Now if they can't control the ball very well at the age that you're working with them, maybe they're going to use safety balls when they do their hitting because you've got balls flying all over the place. Let your players do some of this coach work that you try to do all of, or you and your assistant are trying to handle. Let them pair up throwing ground balls, let them hit ground balls to each other, and let them point out things to each other. If they see a player not getting their hands out in front on a ground ball, have them correct that. Have them tell the player, hey, get your hands out front, or ask them where their hands should be or whatever. Help your players learn to be better players by learning to be coaches to some degree, wherever they can be doing that. It helps them to learn it, and it helps you get more done at practice. We're talking about using resources, so use your players as assistant coaches to throw ground balls, to hit ground balls, to point out things that they can be helping each other with. Perhaps you're working on a tee drill where the player's working to correct a problem with a back foot pivot. The player's not pivoting on their back foot as they should. Well, you can't necessarily be down there because you've got a lot of other things going on in practice. Pair up a couple of players who have that same problem and let one work with the other as they do this drill. By teaching, they learn, and it spreads out the coaching responsibility. Make the most of your players. Remember, the only person who's at every practice your player ever has in her life is her. The only person who is at every practice she has is her. So she needs to learn how to coach herself to some degree so that she can correct her own mistakes. Make the most of your players as coaches at practice time. Keep in mind parents. You say they can't help me a lot, they don't know enough. Well, sometimes take a parent aside and teach them a little bit about a skill, whatever that skill might be. And let that parent work with a few players during practice. She is an assistant coach, or he is an assistant coach, for just a few minutes at a time. On a specific drill, use that parent as an assistant coach, maybe down in a corner while something else is going on up on the main field. But use parents to help you at practice. They can do a lot more than you think they can sometimes if you just spend a little bit of time with them. And it helps make for better teamwork between you, the players, and the parents. That's an important team, and they all need to be involved. Brothers and sisters and friends. Keep in mind your players' friends and brothers and sisters that sometimes come to practice. Why do you need your on-deck batter in batting practice to chase foul balls? Why can't her little brother who dragged along to practice with her? Why can't the friend that's going to spend the night with her help shag the foul balls or keep the balls in a bucket for batting practice? Use the friends, the brothers and sisters to carry out some of those coaching tasks that you're having players do. Let them spend their time working on the skill development. Use the other people around to do those chores that need doing, like collecting the balls and those types of things. Batting practice, we mentioned that. Coaches, use your people wisely during batting practice. Probably the main advice I'd want to give you in batting practice is get some people off the field. We have a tendency to stick everybody out there except the batter and the next batter. And we got everybody just standing around because the balls aren't being hit to them. It's, as they would say, boring, boring. And it is. We set it up that way. We guaranteed it to be boring by putting everybody out there with nothing to do. And they can only do some things to do when you have nothing to do so much. We need to get some people off the field. Instead of 5 or 6 outfielders, keep 2 out there, 1 in right center, 1 in left center. Instead of 4 infielders, maybe 2, a second baseman and a shortstop. Now they've got to expand their range. They find out they can reach that ball. She said, I can't get that one, Coach. I can't go that far. She finds out now during batting practice, hey, she can go a lot farther than she thought she could. And she's busy and she's happier. These players you take off the field can be over on the sides or behind the backstop or behind the dugout conducting those drills we've talked about, throwing balls against the wall, working on tee drills, working on base running, whatever you want them doing at those various stations. But get some people off the field and keep something going during batting practice. You've only got so much time. You've got these people. Use them wisely during that time that you've got them. Also keep in mind a concept we call mini teams. M-I-N-I-T-E-A-M-S, mini teams. But you can expand that to think of it as mini teams, M-A-N-Y teams. Sometimes we can't play a practice game because we can't get somebody to play us. Well, that's a bunch of baloney. If you've got 12 players, divide them up into 3 teams of 4. While 4 bat, the other 8 are on defense. Well, you say you need 9 on defense. Why not maybe play with 2 outfielders? Let them learn that they got to chase the ball out there, expand that range that they've got, keep those outfielders busy. Maybe instead of a pitcher, you use a pitching machine like we showed earlier to do the pitching in this game. Then you only need the 4 infielders and say 3 outfielders for fast pitch, and if it's slow pitch, what the heck, use 3 anyway, and a catcher back there. Or if it's slow pitch and you don't want the catcher, use the 4 outfielders and the 4 infielders. You basically got Team A playing Team B, playing Team C. All 3 teams are playing against each other, and you can adjust it around any way that you want to in this. You can get a point for every base they reach. You can let every batter bat twice. You can go so many outs. You can time it to make them hustle on and off the field, whatever you want to do. You can adjust this concept to get a lot done and play inter-squad games with only 10 or 11 or 12, or maybe you've got 15, put them in groups of 5, or ever how you want to do that. Start with runners on bases or something. You can adjust this concept of mini teams to use your players wisely during practice. Valuable resource coaches, people. Make the most of those people. Now we've talked about 5 very, very important resources, and you can remember it by remembering the phrase I-STEP. I for information, S for space, T for time, E for equipment, and P for people. I-STEP. Use those resources and you take a step toward conducting better practices.